stories of how they used to throw infants up into the air, and with their samurai swords, they in half.
Very similar to what the palm-colored folks used to do back in the day, when they slash black pregnant women's bellies open and watch their babies fall to the ground. The Japanese rebrand has to be studied. If you think this is the worst thing that they have done, no, this is just the tip of the iceberg, apparently, because I went down the rabbit hole and I've not even gotten to the end. Hell, I don't even know if I've gotten to the middle of the rabbit hole. But the things I've learned about the Japanese, they are like this, so competing with the ones from the mountain of the Caucasus. Yes, no country is a saint, but let's be honest, there are just some countries that...
Could you go to hell for a while?
If there is one country that don't get enough hate, in my humble opinion, it will be Japan. And also
Belgium.
But, you know, conversation for another day. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about Japan and the atrocities that they did specifically on the continent of Africa, how they systematically genocided half Japanese babies in the Congo in the 70s.
Mixed race babies started dying in suspicious number in DRC in the 1970s. Congolese mothers alleged the children were murdered by their Japanese fathers with the help of expat doctors. Japan invested heavily in DRC's diamond-rich Katanga mining region. Between 1972 and 1983, more than 1,000 Japanese men relocated there. They lived in camps near the main mine. Camp rules were strict. Women were banned. But as always, love or lust found a way. And sure enough, mixed-race babies started being born. And that's when things took a disturbing turn. The men at the camp received regular checkups from Japanese doctors who would also examine the newborn children. The Congolese mothers, though, were barred from these sessions. Rules were rules, but a grim pattern started emerging. Numerous children died after medical examinations, and sometimes even on the very same day. And suspicions quickly grew that the doctors were in fact euthanizing them. In this climate, some mothers went into hiding with their children, and others left town. Some of the still pregnant women chose to give birth at home. Afraid of what the fathers and the camp doctors might do, they never registered the birth. This meant the children never got a birth certificate or citizenship. They are now adult, stateless men and women fighting for their identity. Japan flat out refused to recognize them. Tokyo might periodically donate millions of dollars to UNICEF programs in the Congo, but it will have no truck with people its doctors are accused of trying to exterminate for the sake of Japanese purity.
Shout out to the African Diaries for that video, because it was thanks to that video that I learned about this particular history. It's on TikTok and also on here on YouTube, so I'm going to be linking down below in the description his YouTube channel. You do want to check him out. He makes very educational content. I actually came by a documentary recently on this topic, and it was that documentary that made me go, you know what, I probably should bring this topic on here for those who are not aware of this particular situation that went down. And in this documentary, we see and get to hear from some of the mothers that unfortunately lost their kids.
These women say they have lived through something terrible. To show us, they took us to the cemetery in their village. Next to well-kept graves, a group of others, where the grass has grown wild.
This is a grave of one of the Japanese children.
According to these women, these are the graves of the babies they had with Japanese men, babies who were systematically killed after they were born. Even points out the grave of her baby.
The Japanese doctor took my child and went over there with his doctor friends. I stayed outside. They talked to each other, and when they came out, we got in the car and left. And my baby died.
We spent the night with our baby. He was fine. In the morning, I left him with his Japanese father. I went to get water. When I got back, the baby was weak. We went to the hospital, and the baby got weaker and died. I had 8 children who were still alive. Only my Japanese child died.
I had a baby with a Japanese man who died. I've had 7 since, and they're all alive.
I had 1 Japanese baby who died. The other 7 children lived.
Was it infanticide? Perhaps. But 29-year-old Nana was born in the same era from a Congolese mother and a Japanese father. Today, she calls herself a survivor.
We lived in the bush because our grandparents told us that if we stayed in the city, we'd be killed. We left for the bush to hide with our grandparents.
This region is overflowing in minerals. Each day, trucks by the hundreds take their cargo of copper and cobalt to South Africa, destined for Chinese markets. Nana is single, and she has a child to feed, so she needs money. She sells her charms to the truck drivers who pass through. But Nana isn't only looking for cash. She's also looking for the truth about her history. And so she talks to her father's old colleagues, like this retired miner.
I was with a Japanese man named Nakangawara. And he said to me, when we Japanese were with you Congolese, when our wives brought a child into the world, he said we should leave it because it wasn't right. We should kill it. And that's because where we come from in Japan, our constitution does not allow us to have children from other races to bring back to the country. And that's why we have to kill them before we leave.
The level of evil you have to be to do something like this intentionally. Like, do you understand how crazy, how evil you have to be to do this? Because they knew from the very beginning what the end result is going to be. You get what I mean? But still, they decide to do this thing, get these women pregnant, and then let the baby get to term and bettered, just so they can unalive the baby. Like, all of this could have been avoided. And then again, like, oh, they are saying, no, they will not be able to bring the kids back. You could have as well left the kids back with their mothers. You know, when I think about the things that Congolese people have actually gone through in this life, it really does it breaks my heart, honestly, because it's like back to back to back to back to back of different groups of people just going there, and it really is sad.
I saw 4 or 5 bodies of babies who were killed. Their mothers were crying, and they went to bury them.
Copper and cobalt. This is what has always attracted foreigners to the province of Katanga. Today, it's the Chinese who run the furnaces where the minerals are processed. But in the 1970s, it was the Japanese who had the biggest operations here. Over a 10-year period, more than 1,000 Japanese men worked here. The men came alone, without their families. The mixed-race Japanese children have formed an association. There are 50 of them today who call themselves survivors.
Fever and typhoid.
They meet in this pharmacy.
Everyone wants to have their own identity recognized, but when we go to the hospital where we were born, they tell us that they don't have any record of our birth. There's no trace. They killed the babies at the hospital. It was easy to do it there. So our grandparents never took us to the hospital. And that's why we were able to escape. That's why we were able to survive.
As a national representative, I've already asked the National Assembly for an investigation. Personally, I do not have the ability to be able to find a truce in this affair, so I have requested a parliamentary commission to investigate the issue.
But no commission has been put in place. In the village where the old miners live, you hear the stories. This blind man used to be a nurse at the mining hospital.
We saw the mortality rate went up and we asked why. Some people said that the Japanese didn't want to leave their mixed children here. So they were suspected of poisoning them.
Were these the same men who killed their children before they left? The testimonies are overwhelming, but Nana and the other inhabitants of this region fight to survive.
Ok, merci beaucoup. Courage.
They have neither the time nor the means to shed light on the mysterious deaths of these children in Congo more than 30 years ago.
For some of you that might be wondering, oh, why did they unalive these kids? The Japanese, they are very into, strongly about keeping the Japanese blood pure, like untainted. I mean, they are not the only ones who have this kind of ideology, because if we look at, like, you know, white supremacy and how they navigate, they also have this thing about keeping the white race pure, right? But the difference here is, at least with them white people, they did not go about, in my knowledge so far, I stand corrected if there is anything like this, they did not go and now start unaliving the mixed race kids, right? They just did not accept them. They're like, oh, you exist, whatever, you're not part of us, go and stay with your other parts, we don't want you. And not only that, apparently they also kind of practice eugenics as well, because I came by this video where this Japanese lady spoke about this, and she extensively broke down how this particular ideology or way of navigating is also why they're experiencing a dwindling, why their population is dwindling.
Japan doesn't have a birth rate problem. We have a eugenics problem. And until we start caring about intersectionality, nothing is going to be fixed. For example, until last year, transgender people were forced to go through sterilization if they wanted to change their gender identity. And speaking of sterilization, from 1948 to 1996, people with disabilities, both cognitive and physical, were forcibly sterilized by the Japanese government. Today, Japanese women who want to get an abortion require the consent of their husbands in order to get one. The law stipulates that this is for married couples, but the majority of doctors in Japan will still require it even if you're not married. This means that Japanese women don't own their bodies. It's the men who get to have a final say on what happens to them. So this means that it's men, Japanese men, both in the national diet and in our own homes, that are deciding who gets to have children. This is actually one of the reasons why a lot of Japanese politicians are against same-sex marriage. Quite genuinely, Japanese politicians have said that LGBTQ people are unproductive because they can't reproduce, which means that they can't contribute to the country. In order to fix the birth rate, people have been talking about bringing in immigrants. But the point for these politicians to bring in immigrants is to fix our labor shortages. It's not because they will ever recognize them and their families here as Japanese. That's why we don't have dual citizenship. So kids like me who come from multiracial backgrounds are not recognized by the state. We have to choose which nationality we want when we're 21. There is such an obsession with preserving the quality and purity of the Japanese ethnicity. And look where we are now. Our own eugenics mindset has bit us in the ass. And we deserve it. So no, it's not a birth rate issue. It was never about the birth rate. It's always about the Japaneseness.
The Japanese rebrand has to be studied. If you think this is the worst thing that they have done, no, this is just the tip of the iceberg, apparently, because I went down the rabbit hole and I've not even gotten to the end. Hell, I don't even know if I've gotten to the middle of the rabbit hole. But the things I've learned about the Japanese, they are like this, so competing with the ones from the mountain of the Caucasus. From Unit 731, which when I heard about it the first time, I had nightmares for a very long while. Side note, they made a movie based on the Unit 731 atrocity. The movie was released last month. I've not seen it yet, but I thought I should mention it just in case someone might be interested. And I don't know how true this is, but I heard about it. I've read about it somewhere. I can't even remember. But, you know, seeing as we're on the topic, I thought I should share with you guys as well. Take this with a grain of salt, guys, because I cannot prove that this is fact or anything. But anyways, here's what I heard. I heard that the reason why the Japanese were not held accountable for their war crimes is because allegedly, apparently, they gave the US some information. Some say information from their Unit 731 experiments, others say some other information, and some say it's like all of the above. So I don't really know, but quite frankly, I would not be surprised if this is true, because, you know, it's the US we're talking about here. They themselves gone, they're not good. So I would not be surprised if this is true at all. And that's on Unit 731. No, let's not talk about how they invaded other Asian countries, turned their women to slaves. But moving on, because, you know, all of these evils need to be exposed. I came by a video, now that we're on the Japanese topic, I came by a video Talking about how them Japanese people are not even indigenous to Japan.
Nobody talks about how Japan is kind of like East Asian Israel, like OG Israel, but like they did like their ethnic cleansing so long ago, like nobody would have known about it or even given a
Not that this concerns me necessarily, but me, I hate colonizers, right? And they are colonizers, which, you know, not many people know this, but education is elevation, so we are all learning here.
Did you know that Japanese people aren't native to Japan? That would be the Ainu and Ryukyuan. We often forget that Japan is a colonizer country, just like the United States. They too have indigenous people with their own languages and vibrant culture that Japan tried to erase. And to this day, they're still fighting for recognition, rights, and sovereignty. They also face a great deal of discrimination amongst the Japanese people. Focusing on the Ainu first, they're native to Hokkaido, northern Honshu, and parts of Russia. They had a vibrant tattoo culture, particularly on the hands and on the mouths of women, to protect from evil spirits. These traditions were being lost, but now are being revitalized by the younger generation, including the Ainu language. And the Ryukyuan, commonly referred to as Okinawan, that's their Japanese given name, are native to the Ryukyuan Islands. Both cultures were women-led cultures, until the Japanese came, colonized, and silenced them. The Japanese brought the patriarchy, stole their lands, and tried to erase them. The very first people that the Japanese encountered when they arrived to these islands were the Jomon people. The average Japanese person has about 10 to 20% Jomon DNA. It is debated whether or not the Jomon peacefully assimilated into the Japanese culture and built lives together, or if they were silenced and erased. No Jomon traditions are practiced amongst the Japanese, and the average Japanese person has only 10 to 20% of Jomon blood. I think there's your answer. Some Japanese supremacists will try to claim indigeneity by exercising their 10 to 20% of Jomon blood, which we all know probably didn't consensually happen, in order to silence actual indigenous people that still remain today in Japan. After Japan pillaged Asia, they had a massive rebrand. And today, even here on this app, there will be people defending Japan to the very end, despite of anything that they've done. The Japanese have tainted and polluted these other cultures by bringing misogyny into them. The people in my family still remember what Japan did to us when they came to the Philippines. My mamai told my grandmother stories of how they used to throw infants up into the air, and with their samurai swords, they in half.
Very similar to what the palm-colored folks used to do back in the day, when they slash black pregnant women's bellies open and watch their babies fall to the ground. And then they stomp and crush the baby on the ground with their feet. For those who may be hearing about this aspect of Black history for the first time, look up Mary Turner. Very sad story, guys. She was 8 months pregnant when they did this to her. This word to this woman, can't say it because YouTube be very sensitive. Because she had dared to express how angry she was that they had done this same word to her husband the previous day. This is one of the most disturbing Black history facts. The fact that they used to do this to Black women, to Black people back in the day, to Black children even, children in the womb. It's just like all shades of evil. Like when I said these people are on par with the palm-colored ones,
the evil that Japan isn't talked about enough, and we have to bring awareness to this. Follow to learn more about what they didn't teach in school.
Going into the comment section, this sister is saying, is that why Japan hates tattoos? I didn't know Japan hates tattoos, but you would not be shocked, because usually colonizers, they are very adverse to the indigenous ways, practices, cultures of the people that they colonize. So if they come and they find out, oh, these people were colonizing, they have this culture, trust and believe they're going to be anti that, whatever it is. They're going to say all sorts of things to, demonize it, look down on it, and pedestalize their own ways above that. So if the Japanese have a very strong hatred for tattoos, I'm not going to be surprised if the history of that or the reason for that is because the indigenous people, as we could see from the pictures that this creator shares, they have a tattoo of tattooing culture. So wait, is Ryuk from Death Note a race to deceased caricature? OMG. Someone responded back saying, oh, ish, I didn't even realize that. But now I cannot help but wonder, seeing as they are not indigenous to Japan, as we are learning right now, so where did they come from?
Just like common sense wise, what color is a Pacific Islander? They're like brown. Japanese people are not brown, they're pale.
So someone in the comment is saying modern Japanese are Yayoi people who migrated from Mongolia. Someone says that's why my mom always says she's Okinawan, not Japanese. My dad has always told me to say that. If this ever comes up in conversation, I say I'm part Japanese to Japanese people, but Okinawan to anyone else.
Like, the modern Japanese person is like a combination of 3 different groups. One group that came from like China, I think they're called like the Jomon. Another group that's from like Korea. And then another group that's like also from China, but like from a different era. And that's like what they are. But yeah, they sort of just like took that island, killed them, suppressed them for like hundreds of years, and they like still don't even like recognize the atrocities against like the WWII and some against the Ainu. Like, they get like disrespected like crazy over them. And when you start finally viewing Japan as kind of like East Asian Israel, their behavior pre-World War II kind of starts making a lot of sense. Like, I'm sure if you're watching this and you're Chinese or Korean, you already have like a deep hatred of Japan because of what Japan did to China and because of Japan's like occupation of Korea. Just completely horrible shit that they refuse to apologize for. And a lot of Japan's atrocities don't even stop at like Asian countries. I learned that there was like a group of like, you know, Japanese mine workers that went to like Africa, and a bunch of them were like attracted to like the Africans there. They had children, you know, half Japanese, half black children, and then like the Japanese doctors over there was like, yo, you can't do this. This thing is like an abomination. And they killed like dozens of like African Japanese babies. They were fucking horrible pre-World War II. Like, oh my, like, I'm so glad they lost. Not justifying the bombs or anything, but they were like psychos back then.
China talks about it non-stop, but no one listens to China. Whoever is in charge of the Japanese PR team, hey, my goodness. And again, the more I learn about the Japanese and their evil ways, the more similarities I see with the palm-colored ones. Because just like them, the Japanese have never apologized for any of the ish that they did. Hell, apparently it's like they don't even acknowledge it. And when you see them they talk about how, oh, it happened so long ago. Bro, for something that happened in the 40s, who even knows what they're even doing right now? Who knows? Nobody even knows what anybody's doing at the moment. Because we know people finish. Now let ourselves, you only know yourself, you only know what you're doing. You don't know what any other person is doing or any other group of people are doing, right? So everyone knows what they're doing at the moment.
I would recommend the Japanese people and government to reflect on themselves, because for them, for example, the history of atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, or history of the US air raids in the cities is so important to them, because they were victimized, they were hurt by them. So, in Japan, to mark the 80th anniversary, there are so many events, movies, and meetings to remember this history, to hear from the victims of the atomic bombing. Why can't you do the same, right? With the people in Nanjing, or people who were victimized by the Japanese aggression in China, Korea, Philippines, and all the countries. If remembering Hiroshima and Nagasaki is important to you, why? It's the same thing, right? But everything that happens outside of Japan, it immediately becomes anti-Japanese, and that's such a double standard. Yeah, so I think the Japanese people can try to help themselves to get out of their nationalistic thinking. Yeah, try to look at the suffering of the people outside of Japan as a human being.
Anyways, I just wanted to quickly come on here and share with you guys some of the things I learned recently. But yeah, what else do you know about the Japanese that wasn't mentioned in this video? Do well to share with us down below in the comment section. Let's continue this conversation there. Thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, I'll be catching you in the next one. Bye.